Welcome to Everything Football. The World Cup is only 11 days away and it's time to take a look at more fantasy content. And in this one, we will be covering the chips, the boosters as they call it, so the chip strategy. Now, this is very different. The World Cup fantasy is very different. Usually in the UCL fantasy, you have 13 match days. In FPL, you have 38 match days. But in the World Cup, you only have 7 match days. So, for example, in the FPL, if you don't get a chip right, let's say in game week 16, you can be like, you know what, we still have 22 match days to go, 22 game weeks to go. I can still cover it up. I can still get the people I'm competing against because we still have 22 weeks. But at the World Cup, I think you have to be very aggressive with how you approach the game. I don't think you can talk about let me save this chip for later on, because there's not really any later on because it's only 7 match days. So you rather be the one getting chased than be the one chasing, because it's easier being the one getting chased because it's only 7 match days. And I think, let's say by the time you hit the round of 16 and you're like 80 to 100 points behind, I think it's basically impossible to catch up with whoever is at the top, whoever you're competing with. So you have to be aggressive from the start. So the chips are very important. They basically have to work for you because there's no second chance at all. There's no second chance in terms of the chips. So we'll be taking a look at the 3 chips. We will be answering the question of what are those chips, when should we be playing it, and is there a specific strategy on how to approach it? Should you use it in match day 1 or match day 3, or use this one in match day 2 and this one in match day 3? We'll be answering all that. And also let me know how you're going to approach it. How had you thought about approaching it? So let's get started with the one that everyone recognizes, and that is the wildcard chip. So we all know the explanation, but you're going to go through it anyway. It allows you to make unlimited transfers within a specific round. It cannot be used for the first match of the group stage or the round of 16. So before the round of 16, everyone gets a new wildcard anyway to use it for before the round of 16. So that doesn't count. And also before the group stage, basically it's right now. Everyone is still creating their team, so you don't really need to use your wildcard right now. So that means those are 2 match days gone. You can only use it in the other 5 match days. Now that is the match day 2, match day 3, match day 4, which is the match day 5, which is the quarterfinal, match day 6, which is the semi-final, and match day 7, which is right before the third place playoff and the final. But I don't see any reason of visiting in the semi-final. In the final, everyone will basically have the same team. If Messi is there by then, everyone will have him by then. If Ronaldo is there, everyone will have him by then. So it doesn't make sense to use your wildcard in the semi-final or final. So we are left with quarterfinal, match day 2, and match day 3. Now you can make an argument of using it in the quarterfinal if you save it, but the only way you can use it in the quarterfinal is if your players go out. Let's say you go for Argentina players in the quarterfinal, 4 Argentina players, because you will be allowed like 4 players from each team by the time you get to the round of 16. Let's say you go with 4 Argentina players, and then you go for 4 Belgian players, and then you go for 4 Brazilian players, and then for some reason, all 3 of those teams get eliminated. So if 12 of your players are out, that means you'll need to make 12 substitutions or 12 transfers, and that will not be enough unless you take like a minus 18. So you can make an argument about using your wildcard in the quarterfinal, but that is a just-in-case approach. So you're hoping that you're approaching it differently. You're approaching it kind of scared, like, what if this team goes out? I need my wildcard for later. So you can make an argument for the quarterfinal, but I don't think it's that will happen. The chances of all those teams going out, you triple up or you quadruple up on some teams and all of them go out, I don't think it's going to happen like that. One team might go out surprisingly, but 3, 4, I think that is quite impossible. So we are left with match day 2 and match day 3 to use those chips. So how should we approach it? Now in match day 2 and match day 3, now I have this. This will definitely help you now. The fixture ticker showing you which teams have the easiest fixture and which teams have the hardest fixture, when and where. So if your plan is to play, you can plan to play your wildcard in match day 2. Now, let's say, if you take, for example, take a look at Senegal. Senegal have Netherlands as the first game. So maybe you don't want Senegalese players against Netherlands because you feel like Netherlands are so tough, so you don't really go for their players. But you really feel like you need 3 of their players in the second game and in the third game against Qatar and Ecuador. And also Serbia as well. As you can see, Serbia have a tough match in match day 1 against Brazil. But next up, they will have Cameroon and Switzerland. So maybe you also want to bring on the likes of Mitrovic. So Then you can make an argument about using your wildcard in match day 2, because those teams have tough fixtures. The players that you wanted, they had tough fixtures in match day 1, but you feel like they have good fixtures in match day 2 and 3, and it's not just one team, it's 3 or 4 teams that you feel that could happen. So that is a case, one case where you can use the wildcard in match day 2. Also, in match day 1, things go wrong, totally wrong. Like, out of your 15 players, 3 of them get red cards, or 5 of them get injured, or 3 of them start on the bench and you're not sure about them starting in match day 2. Then you can also make a case about playing your wildcard in match day 2. So that is the first approach. You can use it in match day 2. I think that's one of the 2 match days where you should be using it. You can also make a case of using it in match day 3. Now, there's a couple of scenarios that would make you get to that situation. One is, maybe you avoided a team in match day 1 and 2, and they ended up winning 4-0 and 4-0, and they have a really easy fixture in match day 3, and you're like, wow, I underestimated this team and they've done really well. Maybe I need to get in 2 of their players. There's this penalty taker who's taken 3 penalties so far. I need him in match day 3. With these defenders, kept 2 clean sheets and scored 2 goals. That is the way. That is the reason why you should use your wildcard in match day 3. Also, if you take a look at the fixtures now, teams like Belgium and Wales. If you take a look at Belgium's fixtures, Belgium have Canada and Morocco in match day 1 and 2. So maybe you've gone for De Bruyne, Meunier, and also Hazard in match day 1 and 2. But in match day 3, you feel like Croatia is going to be tough for them. So that is an opportunity to take out the Belgian players that you have, and a wildcard could help with that one. A team like Wales have USA and Iran in match day 1 and 2. So maybe you trust the likes of Bale there, but you don't like them for match day 3 up against England. That is also a way you can take out the Welsh players if you prefer. You may also want to target the teams that have really good fixtures in match day 3, but maybe you didn't think they have good fixtures in match day 1 and 2. A team like Netherlands, if you feel like Senegal and Ecuador are going to be tough for them, in match day 3 they have Qatar. So especially if Qatar end up losing 4-0 to Ecuador and 4-0 to Senegal, then you definitely have to get Netherlands players in the last game. And if they haven't gone through yet, then you might target players like Depay. But if they have gone through already, you might target the players who you think would come in for that match day 3. And also, basically, is to avoid rotation. The teams that have already gone through, they'll have a lot of rotation. Teams like Brazil, the likes of Neymar, if they started Neymar, Rafinha, Paqueta on screen right now in match day 1 and 2, you would expect maybe in match day 3 for them to bring in maybe Anthony or Rodrigo. So that is a way you can get those players in your team without worrying about your players getting rested and ending up with 4 or 5 players in your squad. So that applies to a lot of countries. Teams like France, if Benzema plays the first 2 games, maybe Giroud could play the 3rd game, maybe Nkunku could end up starting the 3rd game. So those are the scenarios that you might find yourself in to use the wildcard in match day 3. Maybe you want to pile up on a team in match day 3. Maybe you want to get rid of players that were really good for you in match day 1 and 2, but in match day 3 you do not fancy them, or suspensions of a card if they picked up 2 yellow cards in match day 1 and 2, or a red card maybe they're going to miss out in match day 3. And also those teams that have already gone through and you're trying to target the players that are maybe going to come from the bench and start in the 3rd and final game. So you can make a case for playing your wildcard in match day 2 and 3. Hope those reasons were good enough. And next up, let's go to the next chip, and that is the Power Captain. So what is the Power Captain? According to them, it allows you to get double points from whichever player scores the most points from your 15-man squad. This player will automatically be assigned the captaincy. So we always have this headache in every other fantasy game we play. A week like, let's say a random game week like 8. Let's say Salah has a weaker team at home, but also Haaland has a weaker team at home as well. But also you feel like Harry Kane is going to do well in this fixture. These teams have already given away 5 penalties in a season. You want like 4 players. If you think like 4 of your players are really, really good captains, but you end up choosing Salah, gets 2 points, and the one that you avoided in Haaland gets 20 points. When you use your Power Captain, you're going to avoid that situation. So basically, you don't choose a captain that match day. Whichever player gets most points in your team, that the captaincy armband goes to him directly. So that is a good thing. I'm still imagining you can still make your transfers or substitutions. You can take out a player who gets 1 point and bring on another player from your bench. I think that is still possible for the match days. But in terms of Power Captain, that can help. So that can be used when let's go to a match day that a lot of teams have good fixtures, like match day one, for example. I don't think match day one is a bad idea to use your power captain. If you take a look at match day one, Argentina are going to play against Saudi Arabia, England are playing against Iran, France are playing against Australia, Croatia playing against Morocco, Spain are playing against Costa Rica. If you have Messi in your team, you also have Lautaro Martinez in your team, you also have Harry Kane in your team, you also have Mbappe, you also have Benzema, and you're not sure about who you should captain at all, and you don't want to end up captaining Benzema and then he gets 2 points and then Messi and Ronaldo score 20 points or something like that. You don't want that to happen. So you just play a power captain, and whoever gets the most points, if Messi gets 9 and Neymar gets 12 and Lautaro Martinez gets 15, Lautaro Martinez will be given your captaincy and you'll end up with 30 points. So that's a very interesting chip. I don't mind that. A lot of people have been asking for it in FPL, but I love the idea of it. So it saves you the stress. So you, depending on how your team is looking, take a look at the week that a lot of your players will have easier fixtures and you're not sure at all who you should be captaining. You can approach it that way. But I also think it's not a bad idea to use it later on. It's not crazy to use it later on. Obviously, in the group stage, teams like this have easier fixtures, but in the knockout stages, teams are getting tougher. So obviously the best time to use it is in the group stage when the weaker teams are still there. But if you prefer using it later on, tournament, if you want to use it later on, definitely you can use it later on. If teams get easier fixtures in round of 16 and you still don't know which captain you should be getting, or all your players have tough fixtures and you're not sure who's going to do well, and obviously maybe 1 or 2 players will end up getting a lot of points despite playing a tough team. So you can also make an argument about playing a power captain there, but you still prefer targeting the easier teams in the group stage. So that is the power captain. Next up is the 12th man chip. So according to them, it allows you to select one additional player to score points for your team in a match day. The 12th man cannot be substituted, captained, or transferred. No budget or team restrictions. So let's go back to the fixture ticker. So let's say maybe you have Mbappe, you also have Benzema, and you also have Griezmann, and they're all starting, but you also feel like you need a defender from France as well for that match day one, and you feel like they're going to keep a clean sheet. This chip allows you to get in a 4th player from that team if you want for that specific match day. So if you feel like 3 players from this team in the group stage is not enough at all, I need 4 players from that team, this chip gives you that option. And also there's no budget restriction. You can get in anyone. Even if your team has passed 100 million, you can still get in Messi as your 12th man, and he can help you in that fixture if you feel like it's an easier fixture. So I feel like this one should be used when a team that you trust is playing against a weaker team. So I think that will apply to maybe a France or an Argentina or a Portugal or a Brazil, those teams that you might want a lot of players from. Like if Brazil start with 4 forward players in Neymar, Vinicius, Rodrigo, and Rafinha, for example, and you have 3 of them, or you have 2 of them and 1 defender, but you feel like you need to get in a 3rd attacker because they're going to score 4 or 5 goals, this is a chip that can help you to get in those players. Now, I don't think this should be used later on in the knockout stage. I think it should be used in the group stage. If you're aggressive, you can even use it straight away from match day 1 if you feel like you have an idea of every player that is going to start. In match day 2 probably be the best because you already have watched the first game and you know who played how and which player will definitely start in match day 2 and which player did very well in match day 1 and you fancy them to play well in match day 2 as well, or a player got injured and you expect this player to come on. That could be your 12th man. So I think those are the teams that you should be targeting for that chip. Really depends on you, but I think match day 1, 2, or even 3. Match day 3 is not a bad idea to play your 12th man chip. It also doesn't have to be from one team. Let's say you have 3 strikers, Messi, Ronaldo, and Kane, but you feel like you also need to get Neymar for that week. You can also use the 12th man chip to get in Neymar if you prefer. So as they said, there's no budget restrictions and there's no team restrictions. So you can have 4 players from one team if you want, but you can also get different players for that week if you want. If you already have 3 top strikers and you need a 4th one from a different team who you think is going to score well, you can also use that chip for that. So is there any specific ways we should be using the chips for this World Cup? Now you can make an argument for 2 or 3 different strategies. You can decide to use your power captain in match day 1 if you feel like you're not sure who's going to score the most points, or you're not sure who's going to start, and then use your 12-man chip in match day 2 and then your wildcard in match day 3. Or you could interchange them and have your power captain in match day 1, your wildcard in match day 2, and the 12-man in match day 3. Or if you prefer to carry at least one of those chips to the knockout stage, I wouldn't carry more than one. If you feel like you have to carry the chips, maybe carry one at most, but not the wildcard. You could make an argument for carrying the power captain of the 12-man chip if you want to get in a 4th player from a team that is going to do really well in the round of 16 and they have a weaker opponent. Probably if a team has made it to the round of 16 or quarterfinal, they're probably a good team. So that is why we are targeting the group stage mostly. So I think there's like 2 or 3 strategies, but for me, I'll probably use all 3 of them in the group stage. But if you want to carry, you can use 2 of them in the group stage and then 1 of them probably in the round of 16, but I wouldn't carry more than 1. But so hopefully that was helpful. That was a lot. It's going to be very interesting to see how people approach it. Let me know how you're going to use your chips. They're very, very important. If you're aggressive and if they work, it can help you rise in ranks, and the other players you're competing against will, the managers you're competing against, they'll be left to chase you. So thank you for watching. As always, make sure to join the league. The code is in the description, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.